go to the bank, because the banks have, a few people knew that banks have fund to help the weaker society, weaker section of the society. So these NGOs or institutes can go to the bank and request them to support for some social welfare, some activities which can work for the upliftment of the poor and weaker section of the society. Activity and purpose should be mentioned in this kind of letter, that what activity the NGO or institution does. Otherwise, bank won't sanction that support. Amount should be mentioned. What amount, how many rupees the NGO or institution needs, and for what purpose they will use that amount. Error in the demat account, that we have earlier discussed. Account number should be mentioned. Nature of the error should be mentioned. And the demand to rectify, to correct the error in the statement should be clearly mentioned. Now, transfer of demat shares. This is new thing. Those who deal in share market, those who buy shares, SEBI has made it compulsory that all the transaction of shares should be done with the help of demat account. Whatever kind of shares you buy, you should deposit your shares in your demat account. So when you want, suppose you want to sell the shares should be transferred from your demat account to other person's demat account. So you have to provide demat account number and your wish that you wish to transfer these shares, and this is a necessary rule which has to be followed. And you don't know how to transfer. Actually, the procedure is very simple. You have to fill up the form. But suppose you are doing this activity first time, so you can ask for guidance from the staff members or the manager, and they will give you support or help how to transfer your demat shares from your account to the other person's account. Now, this was bank correspondence, which nowadays often not used. But if you are in a position that you have to use it, then you should be very precise, you should be very particular, you should be very language wise very aware, so that your correspondence, your communication become effective. Now we move to another part of our lecture of today, and that is secretary correspondence or secretarial correspondence. Now, in all the corporate companies, secretary is a key person, is a spokesperson, because secretary is a chain, is a link between shareholders and board of directors. Whatever queries, whatever questions, whatever demand, whatever help shareholders want, secretary has to reply them, because company secretary is considered a person having all kind of knowledge of the company. So the person who we call secretary of the company or company secretary is a link person or spokesperson, link between shareholders and board of directors. It is also considered that the secretary possesses knowledge of law, company laws, company, that is company's situation, company's function, company's market. He is supposed to know all these things. So when he communicates with any person, he must have knowledge of all these things, and even the board of directors seek his advice on certain issues. He should be very skillful communicator, because he has to satisfy the appetite of shareholders, because shareholders goes to him whenever they require help, whenever they want to know something, they go to company secretary, they write directly to the company secretary. And if he is poor in his communication skills, he will not be able to satisfy them. That is why he should be a skillful communicator. Command of language, command of writing skills is key to company secretary. Courteous and polite. His position is such that he should be always courteous and polite, because shareholders, suppose, sometimes very angry, and they are complaining about non-allotment of shares. Naturally, when a potential shareholder or a person who wants to get a share somehow have not been allotted with the shares, he'll complain angrily. Then the reply should be very courteous and polite. Convincing. Whatever he say, he should not just dispose of his duties. He just not just say for the saying of saying. He should convince the person. He should convince to whom he is communicating. So his convincing power should be very powerful, very effective. Good advisor. Board of directors appoints one person as a company secretary because they require his advice. He should be a good advisor. And a good advisor can be a person who has a good amount of knowledge of law, legal aspects, knowledge of market, knowledge of company. All these kinds of knowledge he must have. Now, what kind of topics there can be? Non-allotment of shares. This is one of the topics which a company secretary has to face. Suppose the company has issued a new IPO and it is oversubscribed. This is a typical situation when an issue is oversubscribed. Certain people who don't get the shares, naturally they will be not satisfied. So they'll write directly to the company secretary about the non-allotment of shares. Now, when the company secretary receives this kind of letter, he should reply very courteously, very politely, very tactfully, so that the person should not hurt. He or she should be in a way satisfied. Next topic can be non-credit of refund of the application money. When new issue is open and closed, people apply for the shares, and along with the share application they have to submit certain amount of margin money, and that margin money has been either returned or considered part of the shares amount when the share has been allotted. Suppose you have been allotted 100 shares and you have sent margin money. Since you have been allotted the shares, your margin money will be considered a partial payment of that shares. Remaining amount you have to pay again. So here the answer should be clear. So company secretary's responsibility is not only to satisfy the customers, that is shareholders, but he should very clearly, without hurting, convince the shareholders, convince the person whom he is writing the letter without giving wrong information. Suppose he gives wrong information, suppose his writing is wrong, then it may hurt or it may wrongly arise the expectations on part of the shareholders. So that is not good. Whatever he, suppose shares cannot be allotted, clearly should be mentioned, because of this reason we can't allot the shares. Later on we will discuss this point. Reply to the non-credit of refund of the application money. Why the non-application money has not been credited to the account of the shareholder or supposed sales shareholder? That has to be written. Non-credit of dividend can be another topic. Reply to non-credit of dividend. Here two kinds of letters. One on behalf of, written by the shareholder. Second, reply by this company secretary. So both kind of letters are prescribed in our syllabus. So we have to take care of shareholders letter as well as writing of the company secretary. Non-receipt of annual report of the company. A shareholder writes to the company secretary that the annual report, suppose the annual report of the year 11-12 has been issued and still the person has not received it. So he will directly write to the company secretary. Reply to non-receipt of annual report of the company. The reply should be clear cut. What are the reasons behind it, etc. That we'll discuss later on. Shareholders' concern about the declining profit of the company. This is very important topic. Shareholders who invest in company shares, they are partners of the company. They are partners of the corporate company. So when the function of company is going down, when the profit of the company is decreasing, they are very curious to know, because they are worried that their profit also decrease. Reply. Now this reply is very important because it is directly connected with the interest of the shareholders. Shareholders worried, anxious about the declining of the profit of the company. So his reply should be clear. His reply should explain the reasons. His reply should explain the market position, and very tactful too. Now we'll see one specimen, non-allotment of share. First of all, as we had seen in bank correspondence, writer's name, address, date, and the secretary, here I would like to point out the secretary, not the director, not the CEO. The mention or the address is direct the secretary, Ashima Textile Limited, Kokra, Ahmedabad, the full address, and then comes the subject line. Dear sir, regarding non-allotment of share, clear mention of non-allotment of share. Directly the secretary would come to know that, oh, the letter is about non-allotment. I am very sorry to draw your attention towards the fact that I applied for 500 shares of the latest issue of your company. Clear cut, he says. He expresses feeling of regret. He applied for 500 shares of the latest issue, and naturally, he has not been allotted. But I have not been allotted a single share. This is the complaint. That share has not been given to him. While there are many who applied for the same number of the shares or more and got the share. This is the second important point, that it is not that I have not been allotted, but there are others who have got the shares, who applied for the same number of shares. My friends, they applied for the same number of shares and they got the shares, I didn't. So why I am unfortunate? Why I have not received? This is the point. This is the gist of the letter. I am discouraged. I wish to be the member of your shareholders family. It was my wish. I was willing to be member of your company's family. But somehow you have not selected me. You have not allotted shares to me. So I am sorry to inform you. I think this is not only the case of unfair allotment but unjust allotment system. Now this is the feeling that this is the case of unfair, unjust allotment system. There is something wrong in your allotment system. Now this kind of practice tarnish, damage or spoil the image of the company. If you neglect the shareholders, the person who is willing to be member of your shareholders family, you neglect the person. Now this is not good. Your image of the company will be damaged, will be harmed. So he warns. This is warning. Kindly look into the matter and take appropriate measures to check this kind of practice. Now this is his demand, this is his request, that find out, look into the matter, see what has happened wrong, what is the wrong in allotment system, find out it and take appropriate measures and take steps to stop this kind of function, this kind of practice. I am looking for your explanation in the matter, and I'll be happy if you give explanation to me. Thanks a lot. Regards, yours sincerely, and then signature.